Hey guys, welcome back to Mini Dioramas. In last episode, I built a giant mecha robot thing, I don't know, United States type of machine. And so this week is going to be an interesting, like a different take or just a different direction. Less sci-fi because sci-fi is a strong suit of mine, but we're going to go and do a little slice of downtown with like a subway train track. So that's what I get to build for the next diorama. So come along with me onto the next diorama and I'll get onto the time lapse. Okay, first things first, let's figure out what I'm going to be doing exactly for this little downtown area mini diorama type of thing. So first things first, I just did some street layout and I wanted to do a different way I do streets than what I normally wouldn't do. And so I didn't want to do streets out of pathways, so I decided to change it up and actually make like the sidewalks actually pretty thick. So I took the thick border as my base of height and then I did a shape, I think at 0.98, so that it's like there's a gap in between so you can see that the slabs are separate, and I just matched it to the same height as the thick borders that I've painted red. So that was the main objective here, to kind of just give a different look of sidewalks, because they don't have to be working in this type of diorama because it's not supposed to be, because there's no spawn. Yeah, there's no spawn, there's no gate, so no guests can't really walk around, but I wanted to give my street a little bit different look than I usually would have do. And let's say I was building a theme park, I would make it actually operational with guests walking around. So that was the different take here. So I'm going to be straightforward with you. This was the second version of this downtown area because I built a first one like I think a week ago, and I did it under the 2 hours. I built it, and the idea was there. It's just it was very rough in how I executed it, and the buildings were all different, and the subway that I tried to build, because I wanted a subway like elevated rail to go across the map, and that was really janky, and I didn't like how I did it. So I kept the map. So we're going to explore two ways how I did the map. So we're going to see the old map, and then we're going to see the new map. You can see the different changes between the two. I'll try to point out some different things here, but the time lapse itself is going to be the new one because this is the one I like the most. I'm glad I did a second round, because the first one was kind of, I felt like I was pushing through it and not really concentrating on what I should delegate my time for. So I'm finding out with this challenge, it's very hard to delegate your time on what you want to visualize and put down on the map. So this was kind of the difficult challenge, and I'm learning from this. So as I do more of these mini dioramas, I'm going to learn new techniques and growing pains of basically forcing myself to be creative in a time set period and still executing that detail of Astro, because that was what's making me a little upset with my first dioramas. I didn't really scream me, and I had to redo it, and I'm glad I redid it because this one is I say about 100% better. And the colors I chose, the details that I went for, like for example the sidewalk was completely redone by a different technique versus just doing pathways, and I'm glad that I went a different route because I like the sidewalks better this way. And I wanted to use, so some of the buildings are kind of the same from my original diorama. I'll show you more details, but right now I'm figuring out some different building shapes here. So we have just maybe a simple brick building off in the corner, and then a simple green building in the center, and then another brick building off to the side. So I have three buildings here, and then there's going to be an alleyway. That makes sense. And then I just need to make these buildings have different looks in their windows and balconies and gingerbreading, as I think it's called. You have all that designing work on the tops of the buildings and the sides and the brickwork, all that fanciness that I would call it. This building, I wanted to make this protrude out a little bit more because I was following a concept art that I found on, I think, ArtStation. It was like this cartoony graphic downtown area, and the funny thing about that art had little stormtroopers in it. I think that was really cool. But I was kind of following that because it matched the art style of Parkitect, and that's where I found the most inspiration from this artwork. I might just throw it up on the screen really quickly. I'll show you it, like a little snippet of it, of this little artwork that I found. It actually just screams Parkitect in my opinion, because it's very very simple colors, no textures, a lot of squares, and I felt like that was probably very easy to make in Parkitect, because Parkitect is squares, and especially being in vanilla, I can't do construction anarchy or Freedom 2000 shenanigans, so it was kind of great that I did this. I'm going to try to, like, upcoming dioramas, not do as safe themes, because this is a safe theme. I would say this is a very safe theme for me, but I want to do more wild themes, especially still in doing vanilla diorama, because the vanilla stuff I think is a way to stretch out your creativity and your problem solving at the same time with the boundaries of how Parkitect was designed from the get-go. Don't get me wrong, Freedom 2000 and Construction Anarchy are like fabulous mods to do like some crazy things, because you guys have all seen the dioramas and what I've produced, and everybody else who's been in the community. It's been actually crazy. Like every single month, the Coaster Bee thing has just been crazy good stuff diorama all over the time. So I'm glad those mods exist, but it's sometimes nice to go back to the original Parkitect and kind of start where you look at where you started and see where you can go from there. And it's been fun doing at least 2 dioramas. This one was fun after I redid it, so I'm glad I did it. So let me just point out some tips on this building real quick. So the brick decorating sides I think is on grid 10, with those are 0.25 bricks or squares. The water tower I use, if you just call it real quick, is I lifted up some terrain to lift it up and put it up. So water towers cannot be lifted by a shift key. I don't know if that's intentional or a bug. I might have to double check with somebody. But the only way to kind of elevate a water tower is elevate, because it follows land no matter what. So that's what I did there. I made some custom lamps because I set myself up without using pathways. So there you go. I have to make the custom lamps. So it's just the iron pillar with some, I think those are just regular lights from the lights section, and then a peppermint candy on top for the round metal piece, and it actually worked out really well. I like that it glows, it matches. I wish that pole was colorable, because I would have made these lamps maybe more green, maybe more like old-fashioned New York type of thing, but that's kind of the time era I'm kind of going for, is like this classic downtown New York in a way, and not your big skyscrapers, because I don't have enough time to do that, because if I was going to build a giant skyscraper, I probably would make that my focus, but I already had a vision in my head, and then that concept art that I was following kind of was not going to dictate me in that 2 hours. I could not really build a giant skyscraper. There's really no way. So I made an empty lot next to the yellow building with the Happy Cola sign on it, just to add some more. This is an empty lot that's been abandoned. You can go buy it or something. There's an old abandoned car. So I'm adding little scenes and stories in mints of my design or in my diorama. See, I think that's more important, to give your parks more life, or your creations more life, is you add little details of things, and there could be a small story attached to it if you want to. So that car is abandoned, maybe is owned by somebody, and it's just in this abandoned lot, and it's just going to sit there. So that's a story. Or there's a story about the corner building, and that brick building may be a bank, and there's a story about a banker. Who knows? There's lots of little things you can add to your creations that gives it more life and gives it a little bit more meaning than just, oh, I built a house because it looked good. But I feel like that's not good enough. It needs to have a story, and that's why I think that makes this, any creative game I think needs somewhat of a line of a story to help with your creations kind of come to life, because you can't just build pretty things and just kind of go with it making it mathematical. You're like, okay, I've built this thing with the right colors and the right geometry, and there it looks good. I'll make a copy of a building, but I think story is just an importance in all of this. So again with that's the story stuff. So right now I'm doing what am I doing? This is the bridge for the subway system. So just building some typical ironwork, lots of browns, lots of squares. and then figure out that these two buildings need to sit here, because I pushed the train track or the subway track back a little bit in my first like run through. It was actually closer more into the middle of the map, so I pushed it back this time to give myself more room to build some other things. Add some trees this time, so I added the tilia trees on the side of the road. I kind of like that idea, having like their planters or something. And then this is another abandoned lot on the other side, right underneath the subway track. I didn't get a chance, but I was thinking of putting a tent down below and simulating like a hobo camp or something, and I just didn't do it. I think it would be cool to just have some like, yeah, like I'm treating this like a train model. Very much like a train model. Oh my gosh, like when you look at someone's train model, they have like these little scenes everywhere, like people at stations, cars on the road, little hobo camps, especially on like a mini railroad. Like honestly, a model train set has a hobo camp, and the hobo's like trying to get on the train. That's kind of a normal thing to do on a layout, so it's kind of the idea here. It's kind of funny. So this is how I kind of view this as just a model, because Parkitect is just another form of model making. Because I'm taking pieces, because in model making you do that too. So like let's say a what's it called? Not clothespin. Well, clothespin can also work too. You can use that for a different type of thing on a building, or a paper clip. You stretch that out, you make it look like a pipe or something. You just color it differently. Literally, that paper clip became something else. It's the same thing here with Parkitect and their pieces. So, for example, like we just saw it go by, and I made some rain gutters out of candy canes. I mean, I did that in my previous diorama, so I might as well do it again here. So it's like it worked out. Windows can be used as posters. You can flip them around and change the color. I did that there too. And then I have paper. So again, it's pieces are never as they are intended. So here's a really good one, like the Anvils. So Anvils I used as a train track type of idea in a small little diorama for like a coaster challenge that was on the Discord. And I tested that out, and I built a train out of shapes, and then I built the rail out of anvils, flipped around. I like that the anvils have this certain color to them, like they're being used. And it has this shape of a bracket, like on an actual rail. Because a rail has to be connected by, so you have the rail, you have the shoe, the what's it called, the nail that goes in it, and then the tie. I forgot what the nail is called. Spike. Oh my gosh, I just remembered. So I wanted to try to have that incorporated into the design of the rail, and the anvil solved my problem perfectly. So you just have to I turn it twice on itself and put two together, and there you go. You have these little arches in between the ties, and then I put the ties exactly where they are, and it was just perfect. I just love how perfect it was. So here comes the subway that needed to be built. So this is my second time doing a subway in vanilla. So the first time I did this, I did it in shapes, all shapes, and it lost so much of its design and personality because it didn't have texture. And this time I decided just to follow the old-fashioned way I would do it, is make it a box and then make it top curved, and then I kind of finished from there. And I think this subway looks way more better than my first one. You will see, I will show them together once we get toward the end, because this is almost about done. It's about a 14-minute clip here, or 14 minutes of me building, which was a 2-hour build. So just adding the light details that I need to do. I did the coupler in between, and this time I added a small section of subway car on the edge of the map, and it looks like it's being cut off. That kind of sells the idea that this is a diorama. So I do like that when Coaster B builds his dioramas, he has these cutaways and these pathways that just kind of go in the abyss. That works too. I'm going to do that more often in the diorama. I have to go work on this month's diorama for September. That has to start being worked on, so I'm glad that's happening. I'm also working on Harbors of America for the water park for American Adventure. That's coming out. That video should be almost done, or I'm still building, and then I'll edit said video, and then should go up either by hopefully in the next 2 weeks. Cross your fingers. Kind of been slow at it producing videos because I've been quite busy with the first week of school happening and trying to get some of my mojo back, because You can get burned down in a game like this, but I've done that before. So I'm gonna finish here and off to show you some of the new maps, or the map. Okay, here we are in the downtown area that I built for this episode's diorama. Mini dioramas, sorry, I'm just gonna keep trying to remember that this is the series. So I'm just gonna show you some close-ups, and then I'll show you some key things to kind of keep your eye on, and then we'll switch over to the old one, and then you'll notice maybe some of the difference. I'll point them out as well, because I want to show you what I had gripe with the first one, and what I improved onto the second one. So the subway is a big one. So here's the subway car up in front. Let's see what this looks like. I haven't looked at it in a while. Oh, it looks pretty tight. Yeah, so here's the subway. It's made out of metal walls, metal roofs. Those are marshmallows on top, I think. Windows, very basic windows. And then the wheels are made of, let's see here, shapes. And of course it rains, but that's fine. Look at, oh wow, that lightning just struck the track. Okay, this subway is now dead now. All the power is gone. Oh boy, that's funny. So there's the subway. Here's some close-ups of the street and some of the cars that I put down, and then some of the paper and stuff that kind of like just litters the streets. And then here's the little girder, the rain gutters out of candy canes. The happy cosigns are all from Happy Co Harbor. So if you want to grab them and use them in your math, blueprint them. That's 100% what you do. Blueprint them. I blueprint them, most of them, because all of them out there can be blueprinted. So I kind of wanted to add some posters and stuff and a little Easter egg right here. This is kind of an obvious Easter egg, but kind of was just being cheeky. So this is just how simple, but there's a lot of details going in, especially over the 2 hours that I had. So like the shape building stuff that I've been doing, I'm realizing how much time that takes up. So it comes to the point where I might have to do that less, depending on the next diorama that I choose, either medieval castle or I don't know, zombie thing, a zombie like apocalypse or something of that nature. But I think this is the better version of my map. So let's go over to, not save, well I can save it, it's okay. Let's go to load the old one. This is where you can just see how different it looks, and the colors were so much more matted. I like bright colors. And so here is the said old first one I did. The subway track was completely at a different angle, not necessarily a different angle, but a different grid spacing. And that's what I had issues with the subway car. So this is the first subway car, and I'm not in love with it. I just can't. I don't know what I was thinking, because this is off grid, I think. Let me see here. Yeah, this is off grid. You can tell it's not perfectly in the grid. It's off. And I don't know why I was thinking like, oh, I can make it off grid and then make the subway out of shapes. That'll solve my problem. And it just didn't translate well. So I didn't like how this turned out at all. There's no buildings on this side. I kind of just kept it this, and then the streets were kind of very straight, very angly. And then I did crosswalks, and I did a stop sign right here that's out of a shield. But this one was like, for some reason, like I had an issue of trying to figure out my building. I was trying to make everything either too realistic. It's not as bright and colorful and fun as the second one. So I'm glad I didn't push this out, because I was gonna make the video, talk about it, and then send it out. And this is kind of just a lesson on, if you don't like it, it's okay to start over and to notice your mistakes. So I'm not perfect all the time, no one is. So this was kind of the mistake downtown that I made. Like, this is a downtown from like a very sad place versus my other downtown, which is more upbeat and more brighter looking. I just like brighter colors, especially in a Parkitect type of statement. And and when you remember the picture that I showed you earlier, it's more colorful and more cartoony, and I just feels like that fits the style of Parkitect regardless. So let's just go look at the map one more time. Let's go to the new one, so you can get another visualization. Like, it's completely different from the first one. So you can tell from the get-go, there's more trees, there's more brighter colors. It just feels more inviting than the first one. So the second one, I just feel like this is better, and there's more details in a whole bunch of things, like this building, these little things. I just feel like this one just looks just 100% better. So I'm glad I got to do this one, because this diorama taught me a lot, and I'm looking forward to doing more dioramas and learning more from them. And I encourage you guys to also make dioramas too, like little ones. I want to see what you guys can think of, because that would be really cool to see the community just kind of work on these little things and make these little dioramas out of 20 by 20. Don't necessarily give yourself 2 hours. Give yourself as much as you want, and then I don't know, throw them on Discord, tweet me, or throw them on the Reddit, and it would be super cool to see you guys try this out. But I had a really fun time doing this one. I'm going to thank my Patreons for supporting me, and if you wanted to support me, you can go on Patreon. I'm planning on doing an additional perk for Patreons, so the lowest tier. I'm thinking about doing name bricks on my American Adventure map. So like Disney, I would have name bricks in the front of the park. I need to figure out where I'm going to put them, and you also need to test out how it would look. But if you guys think that would be a cool perk for the Patreons, I'm probably going to do it, because I've been thinking about it for the last couple days, like add these actual name bricks. And then if I work on my next theme park, I can do that there as well. So it's kind of like what Planet Coaster did. If you bought the deluxe version or something, that you got your name on a brick or something. I can't quite remember, but so yeah. What else do I need to wrap up? I think that's basically it. Still working on American Adventure, still doing dioramas, still doing the big diorama. So yeah, I will let you guys go, and thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next mini dioramas. Bye.